Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your chosen sources and distill the most compelling insights, helping you navigate complex topics with ease. Today, we're embarking on a really fascinating deep dive. We're looking at excerpts from a YouTube channel, Zikr Kitab.
Right.
And it focuses on this powerful book called Aina Safak, which translates to The Cruel Mirror.
The Cruel Mirror, yeah. It's quite a title.
It really is. And our mission today is basically to unpack why this book is seen as so essential, especially now in our modern world. We want to see what lessons it offers about, relationships, trust, even freedom. And we'll do that through one particular story from the book.
And what's really striking, I think, from the source material we looked at is how it positions this book. It's not just literature.
No,
it's presented as like a vital tool for understanding society, especially for parents and kids. It promises to sort of unveil these sensitive truths that maybe we don't talk about enough, but they really impact us daily.
Okay, so let's unpack the book itself a bit first. Aina Safak. It's written by Gohar.
Gohar, right. And her background is interesting. Microbiology, initially.
Yeah, and social work. Specifically working as a therapist for people recovering from addiction.
13 published books, so she's prolific. But this one, The Cruel Mirror, is framed as particularly poignant.
Poignant, exactly. Because the whole idea is holding that cruel mirror up to society, isn't it?
Right. Forcing us to confront things we might rather, ignore.
Which immediately brings up a question, doesn't it?
Definitely. Why do we avoid these topics, these sensitive subjects, and what happens because of that silence?
The book seems to argue that the silence itself is a problem.
A big one.
And the YouTube speaker really highlights the access kids have now. Pre-teens even.
Oh, yeah. Through social media, phones.
Those reels, the short videos. It's constant exposure.
And often completely unfiltered, right? Which is presented as this huge challenge that, society hasn't really caught up with.
Not adequately, no.
And so the book is proposed as kind of a solution to that, or at least part of one. Well, as a resource, something that can give kids the second side of the picture, a counterbalance to all that online stuff. The idea is maybe parents find it hard to talk directly about certain things.
Awkward conversations.
Exactly. But a book can bridge that gap. Give kids a way to engage privately, maybe.
That's interesting. And there's another layer, too, isn't there, about the proceeds?
Oh, absolutely. The book costs about 1,000 rupees, and apparently all the money goes to the Kuhi Goth Foundation.
Right. And that foundation runs the Kuhi Goth Hospital,
which focuses on women's health, delivery issues, offers free treatment, trains midwives, nurses. It's a major operation.
So buying the book isn't just about reading it. You're actually supporting a really important cause.
Precisely. It adds this whole other layer of value, extending the impact way beyond just the content itself. It's contributing to social welfare.
Okay, so let's talk structure. How is The Cruel Mirror put together?
It's in 3 parts, according to the source.
2 parts.
The first part has 15 stories. And one of them is a true story, the one we're focusing on.
Got it. And the second part?
That's got about 20 articles. Topics like psychological issues, addiction, even gender and sexuality. The speaker insists these are things kids should read about to be aware.
Okay. Sensitive stuff, definitely. And the third part?
10 more articles, tackling some really heavy societal issues, like how things like rape spread, the dynamics behind it.
Wow. So it doesn't shy away?
Not at all. And the source material is quite upfront. It says, look, you might disagree with some points in here.
Right.
But reading it and letting your kids read it privately is considered very necessary to stay alert, as they put it, to what's really going on.
Alert. That's a strong word.
Okay.
So today we're diving into that one true story from the first section.
Ar Kwaflo Kulgaya.
Which means, and the lock opened. Or maybe, and the lock unveiled.
Yeah, both translations work. And the author, Gohar, says stories like this are, everywhere, if we just look.
Okay, so this story, this is where the cruel mirror gets really sharp, right?
Absolutely. It zooms right in on a huge problem in parenting and home environments, especially, as the author terms it, in a male-dominated society.
And the problem is?
Excessive possessiveness. But it's disguised as love, you see. Whether it's towards a spouse or towards children, it's presented as this dangerous trap.
When does protection become possession? That's the question it forces you to ask.
Exactly. And the source argues this mindset just stifles people, their thoughts, their personality. It creates this sense of ownership, not partnership.
Ownership, yeah. That's chilling. The speaker shared an anecdote to illustrate this, didn't they? About a father and his sons.
Yes, a father who just constantly put his sons down, called them useless, convinced they'd ruin his business, just relentless criticism.
Okay.
But then after the father died, what happened? These useless sons, they didn't just save the business, they grew it. They doubled it, tripled it within just a couple of years.
Wow. That speaks volumes, doesn't it? About just letting people breathe, giving them space.
It really does. It shows the impact of allowing that space for thought, for expression.
And this connects to the book's core idea about love, right?
Right, that real love needs equality, trust, faith in the other person. The source uses that beautiful analogy for spouses. How a woman wasn't made from man's head to be worshipped or his feet to be trampled.
But from his rib.
Exactly, to walk shoulder to shoulder, equal partners, like two wheels of a car, needing that mutual trust and respect to actually move forward together.
Okay, so connecting all this back to the story, Aquafil Kulgaya, we meet Sabra and Professor Gibran.
Yes. Sabra, when we first see her, is a librarian. She seems joyful almost, liberated, helping students, but that's not her whole story.
No, her past was very different. And her late husband, Professor Gibran, he's central to it.
He was, by all accounts, a brilliant science professor, really admired for how clearly he taught. But he had this really complex, contradictory personality. Like, he could be incredibly kind and empathetic to lower-ranking staff,
Okay.
yet incredibly harsh, sarcastic even, with students, especially girls, if he felt they were being disrespectful.
Why the contrast?
Well, the story links it directly to his childhood, which was deeply traumatic. Emotional deprivation, a cruel stepmother, just awful stuff.
Okay. So that backstory is key.
Absolutely crucial. It seems those early experiences made him deeply distrust relationships. The only thing he felt he could rely on was education.
So he poured everything into that.
Worked incredibly hard. His degree became his dignity, his identity. He got a teaching job, but he had no family.
Right.
So the department head actually arranged his marriage to Sabra.
And what about Sabra's background? Was it similar?
In a way, yes. She was also an orphan. Her brother was indifferent. Her sister-in-law was cruel. So like Gibran, she didn't really have family support.
So the marriage,
Yeah.
it sounds quite practical for both of them.
Very much so, it seems. A path to some kind of stability, maybe?
But their marriage, 15 years, 2 kids, it was marked by his control.
Extreme control. The source says he would literally lock her in their campus house when he went to work.
Lock her in.
Seriously?
Literally. She was almost never seen outside. People described her like a purchased slave, just doing whatever he commanded, but always with a smile.
Oh, that's chilling. And how did she describe it?
She called her home a prison.
A prison? Wow.
But here's the complex part again, with his children. He was apparently a devoted, loving father.
Really? After his own childhood?
Yeah. Made sure they never suffered like he did, took them for ice cream, outings, really nurtured them.
But towards Sabra.
Towards Sabra, his gaze was strict and harsh. It highlights this contradiction. His possessiveness, maybe it wasn't pure malice, maybe it was his own damage, his distrust, just projected onto her.
So her life was basically endured for the children, sustained by his love for them.
It seems that way. But she said she lived with a dead heart, just completely confined.
Until Gibran died suddenly, a heart attack. And that changed everything.
The turning point. The lock opens.
Exactly. Sabra, who had never even thought about working, was offered a job at the university. There was a policy to help dependents of staff who passed away.
So, his death.
His death, she says it explicitly, was her freedom. The prison door finally, tragically, unlocked.
And now, in the present of this story.
Now she does things she couldn't even dream of before. She describes his death as a release, even knowing it made her children orphans.
That's incredibly stark.
She says freedom has a price, and she cries, but the tears are mixed. Relief after 15 years of being locked away, but also sorrow. Yeah, it really makes you pause.
It certainly does. This story, or Kwafil Kulgaya, that really is that cruel mirror Gohar Tush talks about, isn't it?
It really holds it up. A powerful story about how possessive love, even if it starts from a good intention or from trauma,
Can just stifle someone, create these invisible prisons.
exactly, and how liberation, real freedom, sometimes comes in really unexpected, painful ways.
So the question this throws back us, at you listening, is, where might our own love or protection be accidentally limiting someone?
Yeah. How much of what we do, maybe thinking it's for the best, actually hinders someone's growth, their own expression? The story is a stark reminder that trust, allowing others their own path, it's hard, but it can lead to amazing growth.
And the book itself, the whole collection, is positioned as this tool for families, right?
Yeah, especially if we're talking about those sensitive things with teenagers, the things parents might, find difficult to just bring up out of the blue.
It acts as a prompt, a safe starting point.
Exactly. So the takeaway from this deep dive for you might be to think about communication in your own relationships, about trust. How can we foster real autonomy, real freedom, instead of maybe unknowingly building prisons out of love?
It leaves us with this thought from The Cruel Mirror. Talking about tough subjects can be uncomfortable, sure.
But maybe the lack of those conversations, or suppressing someone's individuality within a family, maybe that has far deeper, longer-lasting consequences.
Perhaps the truest kind of love isn't the one that holds tightest, but the one that unlocks. The one that lets potential flourish,